Remember how I said I was done talking about Breaking Bad? Well, I lied. The other day I was watching this video by Snake Eye Dreams where he casually ranks all the characters of Twin Peaks. Normally I don't care for videos like these, but I quite enjoyed this one and thought I could do my own version but with Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul characters. Just something to keep you guys amused while I work on my next real video. So we have quite a selection of characters here from both shows and also El Camino. Pretty much got everyone who I would possibly have anything to say about. Basically, A+ is of course the best of the best for Winner Takes It All, my absolute faves. Give It To Me Chandler, those are characters who I thoroughly enjoy, just not quite my favorite. B is just a very good character who I definitely appreciate. C is a character who I don't really have much to say about, but I think they serve their purpose fine. D would be a character who I don't think adds anything to the show and is mainly probably there just for plot purposes and isn't much of their own character. And then F, is those characters who we all hate. Let's just jump right into it, starting with an absolute banger of a character. We have Andrea. Andrea. So this is Jesse's second girlfriend after Jane. Andrea, if you ask me, never really had much of a purpose in this show beyond fueling drama between Jesse and Walt. She shows up in, I want to say, near the end of season 3, and there's some good stuff with her and Jesse there. And pretty much immediately there's some drama with her and her, I want to say it's her brother, that kid that gets murdered by those evil drug dealers. And then in season 4, it's Brock who's causing drama after he gets poisoned. And then after that, she just kind of disappears from the show. She's only in a few scenes. She doesn't show up again until like one of the last episodes when Walt tries to use her to get to Jesse. And then after that, she just gets shot and that's the end of it. So never really cared for this character. I couldn't really tell you what her personality traits are other than being kind of cute and liking Jesse. I don't hate her or anything, but I definitely don't think she is a great character by any means. So she's going to go in D. Next up, we have Badger Mayhew. Out of the 3 of Jesse's friends, he's probably my favorite. I was never huge on any of Jesse's friends, to be frank, but I think Badger has some pretty good moments, mainly in, the episode where he gets arrested. That's a great one. And I like him in El Camino as well. I think El Camino is probably the best stuff with both Skinny Pete and Badger, but we'll get to Skinny Pete quite a bit later. So for now, we're just going to pop Badger right on over here. Next up, we got Betsy. This is a character who kind of fuels a lot of the season 1 plot with Jimmy, honestly. Like, the Kettleman case goes from the first episode all the way up until episode 7. And then she disappears from the show until season 6 when her and Craig return for, one episode? Which was great to see because I love both of these characters. I think they are hilarious. I think very well performed by the actors. Particularly Betsy here. She's fantastic. I like her brief moments with Kim, and I like when Kim turns the tables on her in season 6. It was a pretty hard scene to watch, honestly, even though we're not really supposed to like Betsy, but seeing her get owned like that kind of hurt, honestly. But I do quite enjoy her. I don't think she's quite A tier. Definitely going in the B. Speaking of legendary characters though, Bill Oakley. This is a consistently fantastic side character throughout all of Better Call Saul, and he just gets honestly better and better as the show goes. Like in season 1, he's there a bit, but doesn't really do much, but then in later seasons, he gets a lot of good scenes with Jimmy and even with Kim as well. And he gets some really great moments to shine in season 6, in the hit and run episode when he kind of confronts Jimmy for working for Lalo, and he's like, oh, there's proving and there's knowing. Fantastic scene. And then, best of all, he gets to be like a core character in the finale episode, which is, bloody awesome. And he's great in the episode. He's really funny. Probably one of my favorite parts of that episode is when he tries to resign from the case and the judge is like, fuck no. Fantastic performance as well by Peter Dyseth. Great actor. One of my favorite side characters. I wouldn't quite put him in A+ because, we got to save that for the real top Gs, but we're going to put him in A for now and, maybe we'll see how it changes up later on. But really, really love Bill. Next up, Bogdan. I have no idea how to pronounce this guy's name, but he is quite a non-memorable character if you ask me. A lot of I think Breaking Bad side characters aren't nearly as good as Better Call Saul side characters. I think most of Better Call Saul side characters are like awesome, but when it comes to Breaking Bad, I couldn't really tell you much about any of them. This guy, he's in season 1 a bit, obviously when Walt's at the car wash, and then I want to say he disappears until season 4 when they try to buy back the car wash, and he's there for like a couple episodes. I do remember remember his last scene with Walt when Walt actually gets the car wash off him. I remember that being a good scene. But beyond that, this character has little impact on me whatsoever. So I'm going to chuck him right there. Next up, one of the most evil characters in the Breaking Bad universe, we have Brock. I mean, this isn't even a character, this is just a plot device. I can't really put him in F because there's nothing for me to hate on, but I also don't think he's very good. Yeah, he's definitely below these two, that's for sure. I mean, him and Andrea go hand in hand, you know, you can't have one without the other, but Brock is not a character. He's just a device to get poisoned by Walt, and that's about it. He's there to fuel drama between Walt and Jesse. Next up, Caldera. So if you don't remember, this guy is the vet who Mike deals with throughout Better Call Saul, and then Jimmy gets in contact with him. And he's always there to supply the goods, whether it be drugs to make Howard's eyes go funky, or he's there to supply a Huell Babino. He's a pretty good side character. He is pretty memorable. He's not like hilarious or anything, but not every side character needs to be hilarious. He's a bit more understated. Every scene he's in, I always appreciate that he's there. You know, whenever he shows up, I'm like, oh great. He's only in, I think one scene in season 6 where he shows off his Black Book of Secrets, which we assume that Jimmy just bought off him or something because, you know, classic season 6, we don't have enough time to show everything. So, and I guess he's one of those criminal underworld characters who gets a pretty happy ending because we assume he just fucked out of Albuquerque to go be a vet full time. He's fine. Badger is probably better than him, but he's not a D, that's for sure. He's a good character. He's a fine character. Do appreciate him. Next up, Camera Guy. That's his official name, by the way, Camera Guy. He doesn't go by any other name. And this guy is literally me. And he's going straight up to A+. I love the film crew. They're my favorite side characters in Better Call Saul. And Camera Guy is the best of them, obviously, because he's the camera guy. And I love his performance. He's just always hilarious. I love his don't give a fuck attitude. He just wants to get paid his $100. One of my goats for sure. Really do love Camera Guy. Next, we have Carmen. Carmen is the principal at the high school, but yeah, she doesn't really do much. Her only scene of note is the scene where Walt, you know, tries to make a move on her, which is one of my favorite Walt scenes. It's so funny. You know, she doesn't do much other than that, and I can't really call her a good character because of one scene, so I'm just going to put her down in D here. I'm going to put her over all of these characters though. Who do we have next? Cheryl. All right, this one is pretty interesting. Howard's ex-wife, or current wife, but not really on good terms, who is randomly introduced in season 6, the very last season, just to give us a bit more tragedy for Howard's character before he gets shot in the fucking head. We just got to make the audience feel as bad for Howard as possible. I very much enjoy her introduction scene with her and Howard. I think that's a great scene. When she just pours the coffee into, like that very well-made coffee, she just pours it into the little tumbler thing. The stuff after Howard dies is really where it's at. Like, I love the scene in Fun and Games where Kim's gaslighting her and she just breaks down. Surprisingly, she shows up in the black and white scenes to hear Kim confess the truth, which was a bloody crazy scene to watch the first time. And then she like threatens to sue Kim, and then we don't hear from her again, which, you know, fair enough, because the finale of Better Call Saul was very much for the Saul Goodman show. All the other side characters are just not involved. Like Jeff just disappears, Marion disappears, but that's fine. I do wish we got a bit more of her. Like, I feel like, I'm assuming the writers just didn't plan her until season 6, but I feel like if she showed up in season 4 or 5, I think that would have been really cool. Like after Chuck's death, maybe. I think that would have been cool to see. Just more scenes with her and Howard other than the one, I think would have really elevated her. But I do still quite like her, so I'm gonna put her at the top of C. I do like her more than these two. Next up, Chow. All right, who the fuck is this guy? Let's be real. He's in like 2 episodes of Breaking Bad. He like works for Gus, I think. He's like one of his distributors or something, or he supplies some bullshit. I don't know. And he's funny in that one scene in season 3 when he's like helping Mike shoot the guy through the wall. I like that scene. But yeah, this guy does not leave much of an impression. I'm just going to put him all the way down there because at least Brock gets to play Sonic 06 with Jesse. Yeah. Chow doesn't even get to play Sonic, so he's not an FO because, like, once again, there's just nothing to latch onto to really hate. All right, Chuck McGill, the man himself, is going to the top of A+. Chuck is a fantastic villain for the first half of Better Call Saul. He's probably the best written character in Better Call Saul, if you ask me. And the relationship between him and Jimmy is what made the show so good in those first few seasons. Like, incredible performance by Michael McKean, of course. A very well written and understandable character. Like, you get where he's coming from at all times. he really does think that he's right about Jimmy, and he does think what he's doing against Jimmy is for the good of it. Like, he thinks he's going to help Jimmy by, you know, taking his law license and maybe even sending him to jail and all that. Yeah, just a very understandable character. All his scenes with any character, there's always a really good dynamic going on. Like, obviously him and Jimmy are the highlight. Him and Howard are always good. I like his couple scenes that he has with Kim. One-on-one scenes with Kim are always really good. Like, I think one of his best scenes is when him and Kim are both at HHM after hours, and he's telling Kim about how their dad basically killed himself because of Jimmy, which is a crazy thing for him to say, but it really reveals a lot about how Chuck feels about Jimmy. And also the scene where their mum passes away and the last thing she says is like asking for Jimmy, and Chuck just he takes that the wrong way, that's for bloody sure. So he's been harboring resentment for Jimmy for what, like 20, 30, 35, 40 years, pretty much his whole life. And yeah, he has like such a tragic ending when you think he's finally going to get better and overcome his fake delusions. Once he pushes away Jimmy, it's all downhill from there, you know, like seeing him relapse in the house in that last episode, Lantern, is really fucking depressing. That is one of the best episodes of the show, and it's all thanks to Michael McKean. And I think the biggest testament to this show is the fact that they could get rid of such an amazing character and still have it like a great show on their hands. Like, I do prefer season 1 to 3 over 4 to 6, but like, the show is still consistently good after that, and the way his death carries on throughout all of season 4 and just is constantly on everyone's minds, I think is great. He's just an amazing character, one of the best of both shows, absolutely. And he's definitely at the top of A+ for now, and we'll see if anyone manages to dethrone him. Next up, Cliff Main. Another great side character. Basically, any of the characters in the law world in Better Call Saul, I love all of them. Cliff Main, mainly just there in season 2, but he gets to get a lot to do in season 6 as well, which I really like because he's there to kind of watch Howard get trolled and wonder what the hell is going on there. And he's just always a good presence. He's not as bombastic as some other characters, of course. He's quite low-key. And it's another character who I wish we got more of, because after Howard's death, I would have loved to see Cliff try to figure out what the hell happened to him, because he obviously knows that some shit was up, because he was almost there believing Howard in episode 7 when Howard was breaking down how Jimmy did all this shit. And I'm pretty sure Cliff does believe him, but like you said, it doesn't matter because we have to think about the clients and the partners. But once Howard dies, like, that should send up some pretty big red flags. But unfortunately, he just walks off and we don't see him again, which is a real shame. I would have loved to see him return in the Nebraska era, but oh well, there's just too many chips to play, I guess. But what we do get of Cliff, big fan of him. I don't like him as much as Betsy, but he's definitely a solid B. And next we have Craig, who obviously goes hand in hand with Betsy. Betsy is, of course, better than Craig, if you ask me, but Craig also has some great moments. I love how just pathetic this guy is. I think my favorite moment of his is in when he returns in season 6 and Jimmy shows up and he just pokes his head up over the wall. And he's like, "Oh, Jimmy," and he's like so happy to see him because he's just such a nice guy. And I like the recurring gag where he's always trying to drink his coffee or tea or whatever, but he never gets to finish it because Betsy just carries him off to the next location before he gets a chance to, in both season 1 and season 6, I think. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to put him right next to Betsy because I do think Cliff is a more engaging character. So I think we're going to keep that there for now. Next up, we have Combo, the lame one out of Jesse's three friends, because he just gets capped pretty early on in the show. But this guy was always the most forgettable to me. I don't know anything about this guy. I don't remember a single line of dialogue he says, actually. He's just always around until he gets shot and then is promptly forgotten about. He feels some pretty good drama after he gets shot though, so I can't complain about that, but he's gonna have to go. I like Chow better than him because Chow has that one good scene, so I think we're just gonna keep him there for now. Next, we have Dan Wuxberger, who is Mike's lawyer in Breaking Bad, whose pretty much sole job is to put money in the safes for Mike's 9 guys and Kaylee. And he gets a pretty fucking gruesome death. He's not the one who gets burnt alive, but he does get stabbed like 17, 18, 100 times or something. I like that they mention him. I like that Jimmy brings him up in the Soul Gone episode. He's like, "Oh, by the way, Dan Wuxberger, he got stabbed a whole bunch of times." But yeah, he was another one of those characters who's only in one season. Nothing to really say about him. I'll put him over a Combo just because I don't like Combo. And I'll put him over Chow and Brock. I'll put him over Bogdan even. Currently our list is looking a bit bottom heavy, but there's still plenty of heavy hitters to come. Speaking of heavy hitters, Pryce, the best side character in TV history, probably. He is going above camera guy. Whenever Pryce is on screen, I'm having a bloody whale of a time. He is just so funny. His baseball cards episode with Mike and Nacho is one of my favorites purely because of him just being so fucking ridiculous. The fact that he genuinely just wants his baseball cards back and doesn't give a fuck about anything else. I remember when I first watched this episode, I was like, okay, so the baseball cards are obviously standing in for something else. Obviously, like, he's pretending they're baseball cards. But it turns out, no, they actually are baseball cards. And Nacho took the baseball cards just to be a dick, I guess. Just a ridiculous, like, I don't know how the fuck they came up with that plot, but I love it. And the only problem I have is that Pryce, after season 3, he never shows up again. I was praying we would get some more Pryce in season 6 because, you know, it is confirmed that he is the guy running the laser tag joint in Breaking Bad. Now, surely we could have had an episode where we go to the laser tag joint and Pryce is running it. All the scenes with Mike are hilarious. I love their dynamic, and Mike gives one of Mike's best scenes in Better Call Saul actually is with Pryce, which is when he's talking about good criminals and bad cops and all that stuff. Like, I think that's a great scene. Really tells you a lot about, pretty much sums up Mike's character, and also Pryce is there just to, you know, make it better. So love Pryce, one of my favorites. Amazing performance by that guy from What We Do in the Shadows. Next up, Donald Margolis, Jane's dad, who is not in the show much, but pretty much every scene he's in is like really bloody good. Like, his scenes with Jane obviously are very real and just engaging to watch. And one of my favorite scenes in season 2 and most of Breaking Bad even is his scene with Walt at the bar when they're both just talking about water on Mars and stuff. That is a really bloody good scene, which I don't think people talk about like at all. I never see anyone talk about that scene, but it's one of the best Breaking Bad scenes, god damn it. And yes, he is involved with the plane crash stuff, which is dubious whether or not that plot is good or not, but I think Walt hears on the radio in season 3 that he just fucking killed himself afterwards, which, you know, fair enough. I do think this is a very good character who is used effectively and the right amount. Like, I don't think I wanted more of him, but I liked all that we got of him. So I'm going to give him a solid Burr, but not ahead of any of these funny gremlins. So we'll just keep him there for now. Next up, we have Don Eladio, who is pretty much the main villain of the cartel plot. And I've said before, not a big fan of the cartel plot in either show. I think it's all fine, but I just never really cared for it. What can I say? And I think Don Eladio is the apex of that. Like, he's fine. I don't care for him. He has some funny bits. I really like his scenes in Better Call Saul actually a lot more than in Breaking Bad. Like, he looks decrepit as fuck in Better Call Saul, but I really like his scene of Nacho in season 5. And I really love his last scene with Gus in season 6. You know, Gus, you can hate on me, but as long as you know I'm the boss, it's all good. Which, you know, when we know how it ends up, is very juicy to watch. So, Don Eladio, he's fine. He's probably better than all these people, hey, but yeah, I'll just keep him here. Next up, Drama Girl. Another one of the film crew characters. Absolutely love her as well. She's also going up in A+, right behind Camera Guy. She probably is better than Camera Guy because she has some actually really good scene. Well, not some. She has a really great scene with Jimmy when she tries to give him the money when he's broke. I love that scene. She's just always there for good vibes, you know? And I like how she almost has like a kind of little character development over the seasons, because in season 2 when Jimmy's trying to make, or season 3 I think it is, when Jimmy's trying to make her recite like an ad read and she's terrible and he's like, I thought you were the president of the drama club. And then later on in season 4 she actually gets to show off her acting chops, her improved acting chops, when she is on the phone with during the whole Huell Babino scenario and she's pretending to be she's pretending to be an angry citizen. Very cool character, love her. Actually, I feel like we should probably move down these two for now until we see how the rest, because I want A+ to have the least amount of characters. You know, that needs to be the absolute best of the best. So next up we have Ed, who is also going up to A, because this character, probably the best bang for your buck when it comes to screen time, because he's in one episode of Breaking Bad, one scene in Better Call Saul, and a couple scenes in El Camino, and he is bloody excellent in every single one of them. And they got such a great actor for him, you know, Robert Forster, R.I.P., the man, the myth, the legend. He's always putting in the good work. I love his just low-key energy, and all his scenes of Walt in Granite State are some of my favorites in that season for sure. He's a big part of why Granite State is my favorite episode of Breaking Bad. And I love the scene where Walt wants him to stay for an extra like hour for $10,000. No, he wants him to stay 2 hours for 10 grand. He's like, no, I'll do 1 hour for 10 grand. and then they just play cards or some shit. I really love him. And it's another character who I don't think we needed more of. Like, he served his purpose perfectly in that one episode. And we did get more of him, obviously, in El Camino, where he's also pretty damn good. Not quite as memorable as in Granite State. And I feel like his scene in Better Call Saul was kind of, you know, pointless, but whatever. I might even put him above Bill Oakley, which I hate to do because Bill's my top G, you know, but Ed is really damn good. Next, we have Elliot. Elliot Schwartz, who is not in the show enough, if you ask me. I feel like I've said this about every fucking character, but, you know, the history between him and Walt and Gretchen is, like, some of the most interesting stuff about Walt's character, if you ask me. Mainly because we don't know, like, what happened between them exactly. Like, I think it's basically Walt just had ego problems and he was mad that they were more successful than him, so he just left. He's in the show even less than Gretchen, because Gretchen has a few scenes by herself, and you never see Elliot without Gretchen. I think he's only in like 2 episodes. I really love his bit in season 5 when he tries to hold up that tiny little knife to Walt. But I can't say he's left much of an impact, you know, like I feel like of the Schwartzes, like Gretchen's the one who's usually fueling the drama. And he's just kind of there, you know, like especially in that scene in Felina, like he's just kind of, okay, Walt, yeah, we'll do whatever you want. And she's the one who's actually like kind of pissed at him. Not the most exciting character in the world. I do like him though. I do like him more than Don Eladio. And that's it. Next we have Erin Brill, another great side character from the world of Better Call Saul, who a lot of people don't like this character because she's, you know, written to be a bit of an annoying tattletale, you could say, like a teacher's pet. I like that they brought back all of the Dave's the main crew in season 6, except for Omar, of course. And I like her in season 3 as well, when she kind of helps Jimmy redeem Irene from a life of loneness. Alright, so next up we have Ernesto, who we all love Ernesto, let's be honest, or as we should call him, Ernie. But yeah, Ernie serves a very good purpose in the first few seasons of the show, back when, you know, it was about lawyers. And I really like how chill he is with Kim and Jimmy, of course. And it is a bit of a shame that he just kind of gets discarded after season 3. Like, I wish he was there to dance on Chuck's grave at Chuck's funeral, but unfortunately not. The last time we see him is in season 4 in the flashback episode Winner. I feel like it would have been great to see him return, just pop up during the fun and games, like HHM memorial scene. It would have just been cool to see him for a second, maybe have a few lines, but I guess I couldn't be bothered. Not the most, you know, deep character or anything. I will say he's definitely a solid B. I do thoroughly enjoy his character, but I don't think I would put him above Donald or any of these other characters. So there we go. Let's move on to Francesca. Quite an interesting character in both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, because in Breaking Bad she was she was done with Saul's bullshit, and then in Better Call Saul we get to see her back when her soul wasn't corroded by Saul Goodman shenanigans, and she actually had some life behind her eyes. And I actually thoroughly enjoy her in both shows. Definitely prefer her in Better Call Saul though, because, you know, she's just in it a bit more and has a bit more going on. I really like her relationship with Kim in season 3, and even just that one little look they have between the two of them in Waterworks, the penultimate episode between Kim and Francesca. Just that look between them of like, damn, this is... Saul's really gone off the deep end. And my favorite scene of her is definitely in Face Off, when Walt is trying to get her to get info about Saul, but she just wants money to replace the glass window. So I think I do prefer her to Ernie and Donald, but definitely not Craig Kettleman. So there we go. All right, Gale. Not a big Gale fan. I'll say it. Did not like him in Breaking Bad. I guess I like him in Better Call Saul for like the 2 or 3 scenes that he's actually in. He's only in, 2 episodes in season 4, and then he just disappears. Like, we never get to see him in season... I feel like seeing him in season 6 would be so cool. Like, imagine if Lalo tried to get some info out of Gale. Like, that guy would fold in a fucking millisecond. Anyway, he serves his purpose fine in season 3 of Breaking Bad, I guess. You know, as a little wedge between Walt and Gus and Jesse and all that. And he does thankfully get unceremoniously killed off at the end. But, you know, I just don't think he's the most entertaining character, and I actually find him quite annoying, to be frank. He's not a D, I don't think. He's definitely better than all of these people. And he is better than Don Eladio. And that's about it, I would say. All right, Gretchen. She's definitely got more going on than Elliot, like I think I said before. Her past with Walt is very interesting. The very, very few snippets of information that we get about it. I would have loved to, you know, get more about it, but the fact that it's so mysterious kind of adds to Walt's character and all that. I think all we know is that Walt and Gretchen were together. I don't know what the source is on this, but I read somewhere that Walt left her because she was just like so much better off than him, and it kind of hurt his ego, or his fragile ego, which definitely makes sense for him. So he left her in Grey Matter, and then I guess Elliot saw his chance and swooped in, so good on him for that. Definitely glad they were brought back in the last couple episodes of the show because it really felt like a good full circle moment. And she is definitely better than Elliot. And I think better than Caldera and Badger, but not Cheryl, I don't think. Even though Cheryl was only in 2 episodes. It feels weird to put like classic characters behind, random side characters like this, but that's just how it is. This is my list. What are you going to do about it? Group leader. This is the only name this guy has on the Breaking Bad wiki. He's just the group leader. Jesse's counselor guy at the AA meetings. And he's very, very, very good in this role, And I love his backstory about how he fucking ran over his kid and how chill he is. He doesn't put up with everything, when Jesse lashes out at him, he's just like, yep, you're done. Very good minor character, effective use of screen time, I should say. And there is a pretty funny theory that this guy is actually Cliff Main's son, because Cliff Main's son apparently had like cocaine problems or something, and this guy was obviously a drug user at some point, and they kind of look similar and the age kind of links up, so there you go, there's something to chew on. I'll put him above Eladio and Gale because I don't like him. And I'm actually going to move Eladio down to Let's Talk because I hate that guy. Alright, back with another major character, Gus Fring, everyone's favorite chicken slinger himself. I think he is a fantastic villain in Breaking Bad. I don't think that's a very hot take. We all love him in Breaking Bad. Very intimidating, fantastic performance by Giancarlo Esposito, of course. Very mysterious, while also, we actually get a bit about his backstory. But then they brought him back in Better Call Saul and didn't really give him much to do, I'll be real. I assume at the start they were going for like a Gus Fring before he was the expert cartel kingpin that we know now. Maybe he's still an up-and-comer, still trying to figure things out, but he's pretty much just acts exactly like the Gus from Breaking Bad, except more cartoonish, over the top, and less interesting. Like, he doesn't have much going on. I can think of 2 or 3 scenes. One scene is his talk with Hector in the hospital when he's telling him about his childhood and how he lived in that house and he had that tree with a plant that he took to the village to sell. That shit is pretty interesting. And his story with the Kawadi and how the Kawadi is obviously supposed to be Hector. And of course his last scene in Fun and Games is really good, where we basically find out that he is in fact gay. It's not a fucking theory, guys. It's confirmed he is gay for that wine guy, but he decides he needs to put his revenge plot ahead of any kind of human connection. And I think that's a great way to end his story. So the few good bits we get of him in Better Call Saul are really damn good. But other than that, he's just kind of around. And I feel like he showed up too early in the show. He shows up at the start of season 3. So he's around for over half the show and he just doesn't have much to do. So I feel like we could have saved him for season 4. Maybe introduce him around the same time as Lalo. Maybe introduce both of them at the start of season 4 and then establish that as Gus's story for the whole show. I feel like that would have been a good choice, but enough about that. He's still a great character. I don't think he's an A+, and I think I like all of these characters more than Gus Fring. Definitely like Ed more. Might move Ed actually up a spot or 2. Is another big boy, Hank Schrader. I don't think I've made it much of a secret in the past that I'm not a Hank Schrader fan. I actually do not like him at all. At least when I first watched the show, I really didn't like Hank. And I still didn't really like Hank until I last rewatched Breaking Bad a few months ago. And now I'm starting to come around on him. I think he is a good character who serves his purpose well. I can just never get over how fucking stupid he is that it takes him that long to figure out Walt is Heisenberg. And yes, it does make sense for him to not suspect Walt ever because, Walt is... He always sees Walt as just a meek, cancer-addled, fired fucking teacher. So it makes sense that he wouldn't find out. And thankfully, he is really good in the last half of Breaking Bad's final season. He really gets to shine there as the main antagonist. And I think he does great there. And obviously, Dean Norris does a good job playing Hank. He fits that role flawlessly. The parts of Hank that I don't like, I really don't like. The entire stretch from, I want to say, mid-season 3 to near the end of season 4, when he's recovering from his injuries, the twins. I think that entire plot is just highly unengaging. I'm gonna put him... Okay, I do like him more than Gale, and I do like him more than a group leader. And that's it. Another pretty important character, we got Hector Salamanca, who is a pretty consistent presence throughout both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Mostly in Better Call Saul. He's in that show for fucking most of it. I wouldn't say he's an amazing villain or anything because he doesn't really do anything. And he's kind of incapacitated most of the time. But I think he's just a very cool character who's played expertly by Mark Margolis, of course, rest in peace. And I think he has another really good last scene where he's just carried off dinging his little bell and madness at Gus. I don't love him or anything. I don't love any of the cartel stuff, as you know. But he's definitely better than all of these people, but probably not better than Ernesto. Come on, Ernie's the GOAT. And here we have Howard Hamlin, who I've hated on quite a bit in the past. You could say I've hated on him to a comical extent. I'm always showing his death scene in all my videos. If you follow me on Twitter, you're always seeing me post about how he deserved what happened to him. And you know, I'm being facetious when I say all that, but with an asterisk, because I do think people hold up Howard on a bit too high of a pedestal. Like, sure, he didn't deserve to get shot in the fucking head, but he was a bit of a dick a lot of the time, especially in season 2 and 3, I want to say. Like, season 1, he was just doing Chuck's bidding, and I think that's a great little story, how he's like doing Chuck's bidding, and then when it's revealed Chuck is behind it all, he's suddenly like such a nice guy. And I love that scene with him and Jimmy in the season 1 finale where he's like, oh, sorry. And Jimmy's like, sorry I called you a pig fucker. That's pretty wholesome to watch. But Jimmy and Howard don't really go on to be friends from there. They just kind of still hate each other. Well, Howard doesn't hate him, but Jimmy isn't too hot on him for... especially towards the end of the show, as we know, when he just decides to ruin his life for no reason. But I do think Howard is a great character. I'm glad that the show kept him around and didn't just kind of phase him out, because they so could have easily just kind of removed him from the show after Chuck died, because he didn't really have a purpose. And they kind of did, like in season 4, he didn't really have anything to do. Same with season 5, but then in season 6, they kind of give him the spotlight, which I love. I love pretty much every single scene of him in season 6. He's fantastic in that season. Patrick Fabian, great actor as always. I feel like I've said this about every single character. Another great character who I'm going to put up in A tier, ahead of Gus Fring for sure, and also ahead of Bill, but not ahead of my delicious film crew. Sorry, guys. Alright, Huell Babineau, who has no purpose in Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad other than to be a funny big fat guy, which is fine. And he serves his purpose as that role pretty flawlessly, honestly. Like, we all love Huell Babineau. I wish he was in Better Call Saul like a bit more. Like, he's only in 1 episode of season 6, and in like the 3rd episode, and he just vanishes. Like, I would have liked to see him have a few more scenes. Obviously, he doesn't have Bill Burr and Better Call Saul to bounce off of. But yeah, I think this is a fine character who's always very funny, and the best episode of season 4 is centered around him. Even though I don't think he's actually in the episode. But yeah, just for that episode alone, I gotta put him up in B. Probably ahead of Ernesto, and Donald, and Francesca, and that's it. Irene Landry. She probably shouldn't even be in this list, to be honest. She doesn't have much going on other than being tormented by Jimmy in the end of season 3, which is pretty amusing to watch. And we, of course, know that she deserved everything that happened to her. I never gave a fuck about Irene, let's be real. Putting her in D. Obviously, she's not a bad character, so I can't put her here. I hope I get to put someone in F tier at some point, otherwise I'm going to be pretty mad. But I'll just put her above all of these people. Actually, no. We'll put her there. Alright, next up, Jack Welker, who is going to go in F, I think. And not just because he's a Nazi, because he is a stupid villain who was introduced in the final season just to have someone more evil than Walt. And I did just talk about this in my seasons ranking video, which I posted like a week ago at the time of recording this. He does serve his purpose because, you know, he's there to like kill Hank and propel that plot, and it gives Walt someone to shoot at in the finale, I guess. But I just never gave a fuck about this character. I thought he was a very shit last minute final villain to give the audience someone to hate, when by this point the characters of Breaking Bad are so good, so complex, so much going on, and Walt is the most evil guy possible at that point. We didn't need more villains thrown in the mix. Although I do wonder how they would have killed Hank if the Nazis weren't in it. I feel like that could have potential to be even more juicy. Like, imagine if Walt had to kill Hank himself for some reason. Nah, that wouldn't work. Do not like Jack or his gang at all. I don't think any of his other gang members are here. I think I deleted them. But Jack and his whole gang all go in F tier. And move on to a much better character, Jane, who is definitely going up in A tier. Everything involving Jane is like the best stuff that Jesse had throughout Breaking Bad, I want to say. When Jane is around in Breaking Bad Season 2, Jesse is at his most entertaining and most engaging, I think. Because it's good to give him someone to talk to who isn't his stupid friends or Walt, you know? I think their relationship is very believable, it's very cute, but it's also, of course, very dark because she kind of gets him hooked on fucking black tar heroin, which is not very good. And the way her story ends is fucking tragic, but also one of the best episodes of the show. And the way her death kind of lingers over Jesse for pretty much the entirety of season 3 is very sad to watch in the best way, if you know what I mean. You don't see it as much in Walt throughout the show, but obviously in the Fly episode, he kind of starts thinking about it, and that episode is, of course, amazing. Love that episode. Yeah, and I think she just serves her purpose perfectly, both while she's alive and after she's dead, which is, you know, kind of like Chuck in a way. I think she's a better character than Gus, but I don't like her more than Bill. Alright, here's a complicated one. Jeff, no last name. There's 2 Jeffs, as we all know. There's Nippy Jeff and the other Jeff, the mean one. the menacing one played by Don Harvey. There's not much going on with Don Harvey's Jeff, I guess, because he's only in, 2 episodes, and we don't know anything about him. So I think we can mostly ignore him and just focus on Jeff in season 6, who is not what I or anyone else expected, I want to say. This kind of goofy, silly dude who's not very brave, or he's kind of a pussy, you know? And I think he does serve his purpose well, which I've also said many times. I need to stop saying that. Obviously, we needed someone for Gene to talk to in the black and white scenes in season 6, because he can't just be solo the whole time. And yeah, I think Pat Healy as new Jeff, he does really good. And what I love most about Jeff is that he gets in jail at the end of episode 12, and then we just never fucking hear from him again. I think that's hilarious. It's kind of like Huell in Breaking Bad, where the last we see of him, he's just stuck in that fucking room. Pretty much the same treatment Jeff gets here. And I do quite like Jeff in season 6. I don't think he's a B. I think he's a high C. I think I'll put him above Cheryl. Right, here's a big one. Jesse Pinkman, who I chose a very stupid picture for. And I'm not the #1 Jesse fan, but I know a lot of you are. I know Jesse is a lot of people's favorite Breaking Bad character, and I totally understand. And I also think he is a great character. Is he S tier for me though? I think I like Ed more than Jesse. I think my problem with Jesse is that he's not always top tier. Like, he is the first 3 seasons of Breaking Bad, he's amazing. I love him. But season 4 and 5, for most of those seasons, I don't think he's that fun or engaging to watch. Like, his stuff with Mike in season 4 and 5, I guess, is like kind of cool, and something a bit different from his relationship with Walt, of course, because Mike doesn't, you know, constantly manipulate him and shit. But he also is just kind of a pawn throughout all of season 4, which Gus is using against Walt. And then in season 5, for the first half, he's just like Mike and Walt's marriage counselor. And he only finally starts to get shit to do in the last few episodes, once he realizes that Walt poisoned Brock, and then he's back in the mix. And those episodes are great, of course, but then he's thrown into fucking Auschwitz and he's just a slave for the last 2 episodes. And then he just drives off, which is a good ending for him. I feel like his character's just a bit all over the place, but when Jesse's good, he's really fucking good. Like, the first 3 seasons, I think he's on par with Walt as a fantastic character. He just starts to falter a bit throughout the second half of the show, I reckon. And also his appearances in Better Call Saul are totally pointless. Like, I like the RV scene because that's just, you know, him and Walt and Saul yucking it up, which is always a good thing. But then in episode 12, they have him meet Kim for just a total fan service scene, which serves no purpose at all. And yeah, El Camino is fine, but once again, Jesse doesn't really have character growth or development in that movie, I don't think. Like, most of the best Jesse stuff in that movie is just more torture with Todd. I don't think I learnt anything new about Jesse in El Camino, not to warrant like a 2-hour movie 6 years after the fact. I'm very conflicted on him. I'll put him in A at least because, you know, he's fucking Jesse Pinkman. But I don't think he is quite A+, so we're going to reserve that for the top dogs. Speaking of the top dogs, Jimmy McGill, straight up to A+. No shock to anyone here, James McGill is one of the best characters in both shows, of course, and probably most shows that I have watched, period. Funny as hell in Breaking Bad, great comedic character. He does get a bit kind of played out in season 4 and 5, I feel like. But he has a great last scene with Walt in the basement. And then obviously main character of his own show for 6 whole seasons. And he's consistently the most engaging character when Chuck isn't on screen, at least. He has fantastic relationships with Chuck, Kim, of course. I really love him and Mike as a duo. I wish we got more of him throughout Better Call Saul, honestly, but, you know, I like his scenes with Howard. I love how much he just hates him. I love his dynamic with the film crew. I'm just looking at all these characters here. I think every character who Jimmy interacts with, there's just a really fun dynamic going on. He's just a fucking great character. And Bob Odenkirk, you know, knocked it out of the freaking park. And especially in season 4, like, man, he just does amazing work there. Both the actor, you know, both the performance and the writing for Jimmy are just insanely good in season 4. Like, I think that is the best story for his character throughout both shows by far. His, like, non-coping with Chuck's death, and then finally breaking down at the end of season 4, and then, you know, deciding, fuck this, it's time to become Saul Goodman, done with this bullshit. And he has such a fucking good ending. And I love that he gets his moment he gets his chance at redemption. I feel like we all kind of expected Jimmy to go to jail, but just the way they did it was so good. I love that last scene where he's confessing to all his crimes in the courtroom, and the little bookend on that when he refers to himself as his real name, James McGill. He's also in a really good show called Slip and Jimmy, which you should all check out. Back to dumb characters, we got Joe, who is not a character, but he's kind of funny, I guess. I put him over these losers. Juan Bolsa. Another fucking boring character from the cartel. Sorry, cartel lovers. One Bolsa is not my favorite character, and I don't know if he's anyone's favorite character. What character traits does this man have? He is stern, I guess. He's boring. That's what he is. He's going an F. I think he's worse than Jack. His death scene in Breaking Bad is like, I always forget that it even happened. Like, it's a kind of cool scene, Gus listening to him die on the phone, but it's like, we know nothing about this man. Like, why are we supposed to be satisfied that he's dying right now? Highly inoffensive, but I also just don't give a fuck about him at all. All right, Kaylee. I don't know if Kaylee should be on this list. There's like 6 different Kayleys, as we all know, throughout Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. And she's a little kid of questionable age. Her age is more questionable than fucking Holly Wheeler's, am I right? Just put her an F. Fuck it. She's better than the Nazi and the cartel member. We'll give her that. Kevin Wachtel. Pretty fun character. Very traditional, you know, I'm an American man, you know, kind of thing. And, you know, I think he's pretty entertaining, so he's not a D. But not better than any of these people, for sure. Alright, Kim Wexler is going up to S tier. I mean, A+ tier, sorry. Kim is a very interesting character. Starts off, you know, honest, good, law-abiding citizen. Excellent at her job. Has a very fun relationship with Jimmy. Does not approve of his antics. But over time, we start to see that, you know, maybe she has some antics of her own. And that kind of slowly takes over her character for the first 4 seasons. She does more and more scheming with Jimmy. Kind of culminates in season 4 with the Kushada scheme. And then season 5, she's trying to put that behind her. And then last minute, in the last episode of season 5, she decides, fuck it. Just like Jimmy became Saul, Kim becomes Slippin' Kimberly. And then she becomes kind of evil throughout the first half of season 6, to be honest. She's pretty conniving, wanting to ruin Howard's life at any cost, even if it means she doesn't get to go to that very important Jackson Mercer Foundation meeting with Cliff Main. Almost like Cliff Booth for a second there. But yeah, she manages to be a compelling character both when she's with Jimmy, of course, and when she kind of becomes a solo character from season 2 or 3, she really comes into her own and has her own solo plot. And she's always, you know, very engaging to watch. Like, kudos to Ray Seahorn, another actress who should have gotten her fucking Emmy. And she has a very depressing, you know, last episodes in Florida, in the black and white episodes, like Waterworks. Fantastic episode, but man, that shit is hard to watch for way she's just living this shell of a life. But yeah, fantastic character, fantastic performance. Let's move on. Crazy 8. Pretty nothing character, sorry. He's better than these losers, that's for sure. He's only in, 3 episodes of Breaking Bad and then he gets killed. But I actually quite like him in Better Call Saul, mainly in season 5. There's a couple scenes with Lalo, especially that card game scene. I really like that scene. I'll put him over ahead of these dummies. Alright, next up we have Bill Burr. That's his name, Bill Burr. Pretty funny dude who in Breaking Bad. I think we just we gotta put him next to Huell, surely. The only thing is, he never shows up in Better Call Saul. Apparently they wrote a scene for him in Better Call Saul, which ended up getting filled by Trevor from GTA. But he didn't show up in season 6. I was like certain he would. I can't put him ahead of these people. I never thought he was that hilarious, honestly, and he's not in the show that much. Below these people. There you go. Ooh, Lalo Salamanca. The last minute final villain of the cartel plot of Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. Just kind of shows up out of nowhere and steals the show. He shows up in the one of the last episodes of season 4 and then he just takes over. And this is a character where the vast majority of his appeal is for performance. Like Tony Dalton, out of his world good. Like he is so charismatic, funny, but also intimidating as fuck. I think my favorite Lalo scene is his talk with Margarita in season 6, which is probably a bit of a weird one, but I don't know why, but when I first watched that scene, I was just like captivated. I was like, oh my god, what the hell is going on here? But Lalo has a pretty unceremonious demise. Like, he's this genius planner, good at everything basically, but he just doesn't have that plot armor that Gus has, and he ends up dying in a pretty stupid way if you ask me. But he's definitely a solid A, especially in season 5. Season 5 is his season. Like, let's be real. The cartel plot, he carries it so hard, it's not even funny. All right, Lawson. If you don't remember, this is the guy who Walt buys a gun from in season 4. And then Mike buys a gun from him in Better Call Saul season 2. And this character is barely in the show, but I like him. Mainly for his scenes with Mike in season 2. I think they have a very cool, low-key dynamic. I like him more than these dummies. Alright, Lydia. Lydia is going in A tier, and I know people don't like Lydia because she's kind of written to be hateable. I think she is a very, very fun character. I love her dynamic with Mike, how she's just scared shitless of him and tries to have him killed. There's a lot of animosity between them, and I always like it when Mike has animosity with people. She's played very, very well by Laura Fraser, who is actually Scottish, if you didn't know. She's not American at all. I wish she was in Better Call Saul more. She didn't even show up in season 6, which I was very disappointed in, but that was due to Corona times apparently. Oh well. I like her as a villain way more than the Nazis, because she's very different from... She's not like as outwardly a villain as those characters. Like, she's not going around killing people, but she will try to get you killed without even fucking thinking about it. Like, she tries to have Mike killed, has no problem having Mike's 9 guys get, you know, removed from existence. She's a lot more ruthless than she would seem, and I think that's a cool trait to have. She's a very unique character across the show, and I appreciate that. I like that. I like when characters are, you know, very different and stand out. And I actually like her more than Gus and Lalo, and Jane, and Bill Oakley, but not Howard. Let's not get too crazy. Lyle. He is perhaps the most dedicated minimum wage fast food worker in existence. Like, he shows up to that shit at 4 a.m. singing the Los Pollos theme song, for God's sake. He loves his job more than anyone. Like, shout out to him for that. He offers to drive Gus to the airport. He's fine with opening and closing multiple days in a row. But he's also, you know, not a character. I'll put him in B. I like him. I like him a lot. I like him better than Ernie. I like him better than Francesca and Huell. Manuel Varga, aka Nacho's daddy. He's a nice guy, I guess, but I never really liked him. He's just not very exciting to watch. He has a good scene or two in season 6 when he tells Mike off for trying to get revenge on people. You know, it's an endless cycle and all that. And his last scene with Nacho on the phone kind of rubs me the wrong way. What else is there to say? See you later. Obviously he doesn't say it like that, but I don't know. It's kind of depressing, which I guess is the point, as people have pointed out to me endlessly in my last video. Nacho's story is supposed to be depressing. I get it, guys. You don't need to keep telling me. That doesn't mean I have to like it. We'll put him ahead of these nobodies. Marco. Really did not care for this man on my first watch, but I've grown to appreciate him more on rewatch. I think he was in the show the right amount. Like, we definitely did not need more of this man. The few episodes he's in, I think, do a good job at telling us a lot about Jimmy's, like, backstory and his past and stuff. I have, like, zero opinions on this guy. I don't really like him, but I don't hate him. So I'm just going to pop him in D with these losers down here. All right, Margarita. Am I fucking saying that right? Margarita. I am German, so I should know how to say it. Margarita Ziegler. There we go. Very random one-episode character in season 6, and I think she is bloody awesome in that one episode. I think she is an A-tier character based off that one episode. I think she is awesome. You can tell, like, a lot about her just from the way she, like, kind of acts. Not from it, like, just for performance, I think is really good. I don't know this actress's name. I don't even know if she's German, but I think she's very, very good in her role. I'm gonna put her, yeah, up here at the bottom of A. I think she's a very, very cool character with the very little screen time that she gets. All right, Marie, another controversial character, I think. I think most people don't really like her. I like her. I like her quite a bit. I just think she's a very funny character. She's a very real character. Like, I feel like we all know a Marie in real life. And she's a character who I actually think just gets better as the show goes. Like, at the start of the show, she is quite annoying, I will admit. Like, she's got that kleptomania plot going on, which no one likes. But I don't know, I think she's very, very well acted by Betsy Brandt. And her appearance in Better Call Saul was, like, crazy good. I don't think anyone expected Marie to show up for the finale, but she fucking knocked it out of the park. She was great in that episode, showing a much more, you know, empty, depressed, lost version of a character who doesn't wear purple anymore, we assume. I think she's another A-tier character. I definitely like her more than Margarita, but I do like Lalo better. So she's not the best character in the world, but I think she's really good. I like her few moments with Walt. I wish they talked a bit more. And of course her stuff with Hank. Like, whenever she's with Hank, she's the one I like more than Hank. So there's my hot take. I like Marie more than Hank. Alright, Marion is a character who is introduced in the last few episodes. I think this is another character who's mostly carried by the performance. Like, I don't know if they wrote this character for her, but she fits that role so well. I'm gonna assume they did. And, like, her character, it doesn't really have much going on, to be frank, but her performance is just, like, really elevates it. I do like her, but not that much. I think she's definitely a B. And the fact that she's the one who gets Gene arrested, you know, his love of the elderly coming back to bite him in the ass, I think that's a great moment. During, like, the Nippy and Breaking Bad episodes, people were like, oh, what if Marion's the one who gets Gene arrested? And I was like, nah, that's not gonna fucking happen. But it did happen, and it ended up being pretty good. Like, I didn't really have a problem with it. It felt very natural. Marion, good addition to the cast. I do approve of Marion. All right, Mike. Mike is awesome. We all love Mike. In both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, he is fantastic. He is one of those characters where just him being on screen is like good. Like him just doing shit, like making a fucking hose or taking a car apart. Anytime he's just doing his thing, it's great stuff. And that's all thanks to Jonathan Banks just being like so cool. Such a cool guy. And he has great dynamics with many characters. He has a great relationship with Jimmy/Saul in both shows. His relationship with Walt is possibly my favorite dynamic with any two characters in both shows because I just love how much they both hate each other, and Mike just does not take any of Walt's bullshit. His relationship with Jesse is mostly good, although, you know, I'm not the #1 fan of it or anything, but I know people do love it. And I love the way his character ends. I think that might be the best part about him, is that he does all of this bullshit throughout both shows, you know, working for Gus, killing all these people, stacking up the bread, and then it all falls apart in the span of like one day. Thanks to Walt himself, thanks to Walter White just being a fucking weirdo and shooting him for no reason. And I think it's very fitting because you have a character like Mike, factually not a good guy. Like he's a murderer. He's a very evil criminal man. Not the most evil criminal in the world, of course. You know, there's good criminals and bad criminals, as he says. But I think it is very fitting that he doesn't get the money to his family in the end. Like they're just going to think he ran off into the night and left them, which I think is very depressing, but definitely the right choice. And I think the fact that Walt does get his money to his kids in the end is not good. I think he should have had a similar ending to Mike in that way, but we'll get to Walt later. Top of A tier, I would say. He might be A+, but we'll reevaluate at the end, because right now we do have a lot of people in A. We might have to move some up or down. All right, Mrs. Nguyen. Not much of a character, this one, but I like her. She's Jimmy's landlord throughout the first 4 seasons, technically, because he does own that little... No, throughout the whole fucking show. Up until season 6, he does still rent that little fucking satellite office, as he calls it, in the nail salon. Until she kicks him out. I can't really put her ahead of anyone. I do really like her, though. I think she's very funny. And I like her little pep talk to him in season 4, I think, when she's like... When he's in the doghouse of Kim, and she's like, you gotta buy her some flowers and say you're sorry and all that. Yeah, fun character. Alright, Nacho Varga is also going in A tier, because he is another very good character. But another character who is a bit all over the place. Because he's not much of his own character for the first 2.5 seasons. He's just kind of there to fulfill his purpose in whatever Mike or Saul is doing. He has some fun bits with Pryce, of course, with the Hummer. You know, one of my favorite lines from the show is... But in season 3, he gets to be a real character, and he has to face off against all these fucking Salamancas. And that's when Nacho really becomes a good character, because his relationship with Lalo is a very interesting one. Because obviously Nacho does hate this guy because he's a fucking Salamanca, and we hate them. But they also do have like a very cool dynamic. Like at the start, obviously Lalo just kind of disregards him. But then Lalo comes to kind of appreciate him, value him. They even kind of become friends. He like cooks tacos for him and stuff, and you know, takes him to Mexico to meet the gang. And like I said in my video, I wish the end of their stories converged, but you know, they decided to make them separate. Nacho gets a pretty depressing ending, and I want to clarify, because in my last video I complained about it. I complained that he had a depressing ending and I wish he got away with it. I do still think that, but the comments did kind of make me see that it is very purposeful that he does have a depressing ending and doesn't get away with it like Jesse does, because not everyone gets a happy ending, especially when you're fucking involved with the cartel bullshit. So I don't really have a real problem with Nacho's ending. I just personally would have preferred if Lalo was involved, and maybe he didn't die by suicide, you know, maybe he does get away. But overall, he is a very good character, who I do think is a better character than Margarita. Alright, Neil, straight to F tier, dogshit villain from El Camino. I just think it's so funny that by the time El Camino rolled around, we of course need a villain for this movie, because we can't just have like a character-focused drama. That'd be ridiculous. And all the characters from Breaking Bad are very dead. So the best Vince could come up with is the guy who made the thing chaining Jesse to the Nazi meth lab. I kind of like Neil for that purpose, the fact that he's just so random, out of nowhere. And they have that scene where he's like, oh my god, I was wondering when you were gonna remember me. And then Jesse's like, oh my god, it's the guy who made the thing chaining me to the Nazi meth lab. He's better than one Bolsa, I guess. I can't put him above Jack, because Jack actually had some real plot relevance, mainly, you know, killing Hank. But Neil is just a silly guy who didn't really deserve to exist. Alright, Omar. Love Omar. Jimmy's awesome assistant guy in his Davis and Maine era. And this is another character who has so little screen time, but whenever he's on screen, he's just fun to watch, you know? I like his dynamic with Jimmy, and I like that after Jimmy gets himself fired, Omar helps him take his Coco Bolo desk back to his satellite office. And then when Jimmy's like, oh, can I get you a beer or something? And then Omar's like, nah, I got like a wife and kids to get back to, bro. It really enriches both him and Jimmy in that moment, because like Jimmy's like 40 fucking years old, acting like a little baby, and is like, my assistant has like a wife and kids at home, and he's got his life sorted, but I'm just still fucking around in between jobs. I don't know why, I just really think that's a cool scene. The little we did get of him, I definitely appreciated. All right, next up we have Paige. Another character who isn't really much of a character. She's just kind of one of Kim's bosses, but I think she's pretty cool. I can't put her in B. She's not that cool. Let's be real. I'll put her ahead of Kevin. All right, Rebecca. Another character who is very scarcely used, but when she is used very well. Chuck McGill's ex, introduced to us in a very good flashback scene where we kind of see how Jimmy's always kind of stealing the spotlight from Chuck, even from his own fucking wife. I like her in the episode after Chicanery when she kind of calls Jimmy out for ruining Chuck's life for no reason. But yeah, very rarely in the show, but I think she is a very, very cool character. I like her more than Marion. Alright, Rich Schweikart, straight to the top. High A tier. Another one of the best side characters from the legal world. Probably the best boss in the Breaking Bad universe. Like, if you had to work at any of the places in Breaking Bad, Schweikart and Coakley would be the one for sure, because he is just such a legend. He's a kind of low-key like Cliff, but a bit more funny, more sarcastic. And his very first scene in season 1 when he calls Jimmy while Jimmy's in the trash can, one of my favorite scenes with him. He is hilarious in that scene. And I really, really love his scene with Kim in season 2, I think it is, when he's talking about how his boss wasn't there for him, much like Howard wasn't there for Kim. I want to say he's emblematic of what I love about Better Call Saul side characters, where they're not like the most outwardly hilarious or anything like that, but they're just very like cool, realistic, fun characters who serve their purpose very well. All right, next up, Skinny Pete. Probably the best of Jesse's friends. I like him more than Badger. He's kind of a standout of El Camino, which is very random. But he's very cool in El Camino. I like him the most in that out of all his appearances for sure. Rest of the show is just kind of annoying, much like Badger and the rest of them. And here we have Skylar White, who has suffered endless hate at the hands of, dummies online. But she is a very, very compelling character, very reasonable character, who I kind of understand throughout the entire show. Like, there's never a point where I'm like, this Skylar character is just so weird, or I don't like what she's doing. I really like her when she's working with Walt in season 4, when she just kind of realizes, my husband's a criminal and he's making a shit ton of money. We may as well, try to do it properly. I think Anna Gunn does a very, very good job playing her, especially in Ozymandias. Like, Jesus Christ, she's good in that episode. And I think she did win an Emmy for that one, as she deserves. And I think she has good dynamics with pretty much every character she interacts with. Her few interactions with Jesse especially are very comical usually, especially the fucking dinner scene. And her last scene in Felina is one of her best. And she's just so, like, empty, depressed, just a shell of a person, and I think Anna Gunn plays that so well. And she's also pretty damn funny sometimes as well, like in the Bullet Points episode when her and Walt are planning, like, to tell Hank the not truth about Walt's gambling problem. I think that's a really funny scene. She's definitely better than Marie. I like her more than Lalo and Gus, but not Bill Oakley. Oh dear. Sound Guy, the last of the film crew, who I of course love, but he's the least exciting of a film crew because he doesn't say like a fucking word for like most of it. A little detail that I noticed that I appreciate in the plan and execution episode, you know how he's normally the sound guy, so he's usually holding the boom pole, but in season 6 they're taking photos, they don't need sound, but he's still there with his boom pole, except this time he's got a leaf on it to like put in the foreground out of focus. I don't know why, but that just really amuses me. He still found a job for himself to do. I appreciate that. But yeah, I don't really love him as much as the other one, so I'll put him in reasonably. Alright, Stacy. This is a character who I feel like has a lot of missed potential because they have this great actress playing Stacy. Her name is Kerry Condon. She's Irish. But her character is just like, there's nothing going on. She's always just Pop, I need you to watch Kaylee. And there's never much more than that. The closest we get is 2 times in our season 1 when the stuff with Maddie in the 5-0 episode. And then in season 2 when she's having these like PTSD dreams where she hears gunshots in the middle of the night that she definitely doesn't because, you know, Mike was there the whole night and didn't hear anything. People construed that as like she was trying to gaslight Mike into like paying for a new house for her, like on purpose. I don't think she was being that malicious. I think she genuinely was just having like trauma from her husband being killed in such a tragic way. After that, they don't really give her much exciting to do, which I feel like is a real shame because you have this great actress at your disposal and you just don't really use her effectively. Yeah, she's still a good character, but I feel like she could have been so much more. I'll put her ahead of these goobers. Steve Gomez. Do not like him at all. I'm sorry. I don't think he's funny. I think he's just annoying. Well, he's funny sometimes, I guess, but that's pretty much all he's there for. He's just there as Hank's sidekick. His scenes in Better Call Saul are quite awkward. Same with Hank's. I think I mentioned that. He's like, serves his role fine as just Hank's sidekick, someone for him to talk to and, you know, bounce off of. But beyond that, I don't think he's very cool. Sorry, Steve Gomez fans. Suzanne Erickson. Another Law World character which means I of course like her, but I don't love her as much as, you know, Rich or Cliff or anything. Yeah, she's definitely a C. I don't think she's really better than any of these people. Alright, Ted Beneke. I don't think Ted is an F tier character. I think a lot of people do not like Ted. I also don't like Ted, but I think he is still funny in terms of just how, like, useless and dumb he is. Like the fact that he gets gifted enough money to pay off his taxes and he immediately spends it on like a new car is like very funny. And the way his character is resolved is also very funny. I think he's a funny character, but I also don't like him, if that makes sense. But I do like him more than most of these people, I think. Alright, Todd is an A tier character. Very good character. I really, really, really love Todd. I think he is played, of course, very well by Jesse Plemons, who went on to become an all-star actor, as we know. Just a very interesting character who we don't know much about, but he's just such a creep. Lovable, but also, like, obviously fucking scary, because he will kill you and not give a flying fuck. And I think he's another highlight of El Camino, but I think he does a great job in that movie. Like, I think Todd is the best character in El Camino. Yeah, I think I like him more than... Do I like him more than Jesse? Is that so... How dumb is that? I think I do. Tuco? Not a huge Tuco fan, to be frank. Played very well by Raymond Cruz, of course. Even though Raymond Cruz apparently hates playing Tuco because he's a little pussy. Fantastic in the Grilled episode. That pretty much carries him the most of the way for me. Like, I'll put him in reasonably. He's just not my tempo. Which I assume you can figure out if you look at what characters I have up here compared to down here. I think you can figure out what my tempo is. The twins. Bottom of F tier. I hate these guys. They're stupid. They have no point. I don't like the actors. They're terrible. The episode where Nacho's trying to get away from him in the car and they're just like strolling towards him, doing nothing. It's like, come on, guys. Maybe stop aura farming and get the job done for a fucking second. And they're in the show like quite a bit. Like they keep popping up and I'm like, oh my god, go away. We don't fucking care about the twins, guys. And Tyrus, another F tier character who also just has no character. He's just a henchman for Gus. And the fact that him and Victor are both brought back in Better Call Saul was just like, we didn't need more of these guys. Come on. I think the twins are even better than him, honestly. Victor, better than Tyrus for sure. When he tries to start cooking a fucking meth batch in the box cutter episode, I think that's pretty funny. All right, Walt Jr. He's fine, I guess. Not the most engaging character in the world. He does love breakfast, which I relate to heavy. Fuck with breakfast. Some good scenes, mainly Ozymandias and Granite State. His reaction to Walt being a fucking drug dealer and then watching his parents fight each other with a knife. Like, that must be pretty fucking traumatic for him. RJ Mitty is really good in that episode. And same with Granite State when yells at Walt on the phone. That's another great scene. So for those two scenes alone, I'll put him up in B. And here we are with the hottest take of all time. Walter White is the best character in both shows. I'm sorry. For a man with such controversial takes, for Walter White to be my favorite character is probably a pretty lame thing to say, but Bryan Cranston as Walter White is just like the best performance I've ever seen. He's great at every single emotion, you know, whether he's distraught over Hank dying or enraged at like Jesse or the Nazis or Mike or whatever. Or if he's just being a funny goofball, I think he's even better at that. Like, obviously Bryan Cranston was a comedic actor, but he's really, really fucking funny in the show, especially in season 3 during his Crash Out arc. I'll never stop highlighting that period of a show because I really do think it's the funniest stuff like ever. Just a flawless story of a guy going from just a loser teacher to ultimate meth cooking badass to lost everything and now all I have left is revenge. And clarity. The last episode, I know I've said it a lot, but the scene where he says to Skylar that he did it for himself is the scene of Breaking Bad for me. Like if Felina didn't have that scene, that episode would be like a 2 out of 10. And I think he's the best character by like a long shot. Like I don't think it's close. These characters are A+, Walt is like A+++. The only thing I will say is that I don't like it when people just call him a badass. I think him being a badass is usually like his weakest stuff. Like the Say My Name scene is probably my least favorite Walter White scene. But it also does fit his character at that point because like early season 5, that guy thinks he's like the top dog. And he is. Like he killed Gus. No one could say no to him. He's on top of everything. It makes sense that he would be so fucking egomaniacal. And it also makes his eventual downfall so much more compelling. And with that, we have one more character. Werner Ziegler, who is another A-tier character if you ask me. I think Werner is a great addition to the Mike story. It was nice to give Mike someone to interact with who is just a normal guy. Not involved with the cartel or schemes or any of that shit. Just a humble engineer doing his job. His job does happen to be illegal, and his last scene is fucking depressing. Like, Jesus Christ. That scene with him and Mike is so good. I think he's just a very cool character, very unexpected character, I would say, who just kind of shows up and ends up kind of stealing the show from that side of the story, if you ask me. I think he's one of the highlights of season 4 in a very, very, very good season to begin with. So I'm going to put him up there. I think, okay, let's move Mike up. Yeah, that is my Breaking Bad characters tier list. I adjusted Mike to move him up because we can't be too mean to Mike. Like, come on, it's fucking Mike. Let me know what you guys think and, comment your rankings below. I've made this a public tier list, so if you want to do your own one, I'll have a link in the description to make your own shitty tier list and I won't look at it. Discuss in the comments what your favorite and least favorite Breaking Bad characters are. Complain about how bad my opinions are and, I'll see you in the next video whenever the fuck that is.